I've been running direct gigs off and on for the past 20 years, and I started off with this. I'm currently on this. I've kind of been through everything in between. In most venues that I've played, this can work really well from the audience's perspective. You can quite often achieve album quality sound out front, but depending on the sound engineer, we don't have much control over that. The two main issues I've had while running direct to front of house are now things that I do have control over, thanks to this is the Headrush FRFR-112, a 12-inch full-range flat response speaker designed for guitarists, but can be used by bass players or acoustic guitarists as well. My first issue was not being able to hear guitar properly on stage and struggling to get the vocals, the balance and ratio right between the vocals and guitar through my monitor mix. And it always felt like a compromise and was always an uncomfortable feeling, even after hundreds of gigs. The second issue was one from the audience's perspective, and that depended on the venue, more so in a smaller venue, but depending on where they stand in the venue. If they stand too close to the stage, which is what you want, they're going to hear a lot of drums, they're going to hear a lot of anybody who has an amp, but in my case, no guitar because I didn't have an amp on stage. This fixes both of those issues and is a lot lighter than bringing a small amp, even a small combo to the gig, and even more importantly is more transparent and accurate to the sound that you're actually sending to the desk. I'd usually play and give you some sound demos in a usual gear demo, but I don't really think that's going to work in this case. It'd be like miking up my studio monitors and giving you a demonstration of how they sound. It's not really going to translate very well and there's too many variables. All I can do is tell you what I think of it and tell you about my experiences that I've had with it. They cost around £275 in the UK and are currently around $360 at Sweetwater at the moment. It weighs 35 pounds, which if you don't know is about the weight of the average 4-year-old. It weighs half as much as my 5153 1x12 combo, and it's 2000 watts, so it's loud enough for any venue. I've only used this in a modern rock kind of high gain setting, and my drummer is loud, like very, very loud, and it keeps up with him without any issues. It has two inputs, both able to accept XLR or jack. I use a TRS to jack cable from my HX Stomp to the Headrush. It has a ground lift button for the XLR out and a mid-scoop button in case you don't want to hear yourself. I've seen people online complain that when it's coupled with a flaw, it adds a lot of bass to the sound, and I haven't had that issue. To me it sounds very true and flat. I like to have it mounted on this short PA speaker stand just below head height. I've never really enjoyed standing in front of speaker cabs, and while not as directional as a traditional speaker cab, I still like it kind of facing slightly away. Having one of these allows you to create and edit your live patches much more precisely at home or in situations where you can't necessarily crank it up to gig volumes. Before this I was using studio monitors and I was able to reasonably accurately recreate what I was hoping to send to the front of house. But I've noticed that I'm getting a lot closer now that I'm using this. It's far more transparent and that's just a huge advantage. I bought a Gator gig bag for it for about £35. I'll put a link in the description below. It wasn't made for it, it's a generic case for any kind of a 12-inch PA speaker, but it keeps it clean and looking good and it works really well, fits perfectly. It's got a nice big pocket on the front for your power lead or your XLR or whatever you choose to use. The only thing I really don't like about the Headrush is that the volume control affects the level of the XLR out, which means that if you go from your modeler to the speaker to front of house, every time you adjust your monitor level on the stage, you're affecting the level that gets sent to front of house, which makes no sense at all, and I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. It might not seem like a big deal, but now I've had to add a DI box to my pedal board to send to front of house that doesn't get affected every time I change my on-stage monitoring level. If you're moving from a traditional amp-based setup to something like an FRFR system, then it's quite a different experience, and you might have to work at it for a while to get used to it. It's very different hearing a raw, unprocessed cab hitting you in the back live to a fully processed guitar, microphone, impulse response, microphone modelling, high cuts, low cuts. It's a very different experience, and some people find it quite uncomfortable, but I'd recommend giving it a try, sticking with it for a while because you might love it. If I were to have to buy it again, I'd probably go for the 8-inch version, which might seem a bit weird considering the overall really good review that I've given it. But the main reason I bought this was to have a really convenient lightweight system that I can just take around anywhere. Stick 2 guitars on my back in a double gig bag, pedal board in one hand, speaker in the other hand, which I've done and it's fine. I've done it multiple times at gigs and it works. But the smaller speaker one, the 108, is £19 and more importantly less cumbersome. So navigating around smaller packed venues would be slightly easier, and It's still 2000 watts, and to be honest, it's mainly for my benefit, so I don't need it to be huge. Saying that, I don't want to take anything away from this because it's performed pretty much exactly how I was hoping it would, other than the XLR issue. Let me know if you have one of these and what you think of it, or maybe let me know how you would use it. If you like guitar stuff, then please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.